The story begins in an open field, where Michael stands quietly, admiring the beautiful colors stretching across the sky. Suddenly, a gunshot echoes through the air, and a woman screams. Michael jolts awake and realizes it was all just a dream. That night, he heads to the casino where he's been working for the past 3 months. In all that time, he's memorized every inch of the place. Every camera angle. Every employee's routine. Over time, he'd become friends with everyone there. He knew what people liked, what annoyed them, who could be trusted, and who couldn't. Eventually, he even started serving high-profile VIP clients, quietly overhearing confidential conversations that most people were never meant to hear. After his shift ends, Michael removes his makeup. The transformation is shocking. It's hard to believe this is the same man. In real life, Michael is a con artist. He scams people and steals their money, hiding in plain sight inside casinos. He took the job for one reason: to learn everything from the inside. After 3 months, he mastered every machine and every table in the casino. Along the way, he'd secretly installed several tiny gadgets. Now, he was finally ready to make a fortune. Using a completely new and carefully crafted identity, Michael walks into the casino. He pulls out his phone and activates a hidden device. Instantly, every card is secretly removed from the automatic shuffling machine. He got started immediately. First, he headed to a table and used his magnetic dice. Earlier, he'd secretly installed a hidden button underneath the table that allowed him to control the outcome of every roll. Then he made his way to the room of a VIP client who was passed out cold. Earlier that night, Michael had spiked the man's drink. A little later, the VIP guests were escorted into a private room. Michael dressed the unconscious man in expensive clothes and placed a gold pass on him. Right after that, Michael hurried to the service elevator and inserted a small chip into the control panel. At the same time, an employee was bringing out a fresh set of cards. Pretending to be an irritated VIP guest, Michael said, "Someone dropped me off on the wrong floor. Should I file a complaint?" The employee immediately got nervous. "Sir, I'll take you myself," he said. But before anything else could happen, Michael secretly used his phone to shut down both the elevator and the lights. Now the employee was panicking. Worried that the VIP guest would get even angrier, he quickly called for help. "Get this elevator working now." While everyone was distracted, Michael quietly placed his box inside and swapped out the real cards. A few moments later, he turned everything back on and calmly entered the VIP room. Inside, a man named Alex was already there. Michael was wearing a pair of special glasses that allowed him to see the numbers printed on the cards. When the game began, Michael made sure not to win every single round. He didn't want anyone getting suspicious, and he wanted the others to keep betting more money. Michael played carefully, making sure every card in his hand looked absolutely perfect. Then he pushed all the money in. Watching his confidence, everyone else at the table followed and bet everything they had too. Now Michael was seconds away from winning millions in one massive sweep. But suddenly, the cards were dealt again. And he lost. After all that planning, the third player at the table won instead. The man stood up calmly and said, "I'm done playing." He collected the money and walked away. Immediately suspicious, Michael followed him. "You've been cheating too, haven't you?" Michael said. "Come on, hand over the suitcase." But when he opened it, there was no money inside. Just stacks of papers. Then suddenly, the lights went out. A bright flash cut through the darkness. And when the lights came back, the man's face had changed. It wasn't even the same person Michael had been following. Before he could react, security guards rushed in from behind and grabbed him. At the same moment, Alex quietly disappeared. Michael was dragged into a storage room and tied to a chair. One of the guards punched him hard across the face. A few moments later, the casino owner, Victor, walked in and demanded his money. Trying to stay calm, Michael said, "I'm one of your VIP clients. You're really going to beat me like this?" But the guards kept hitting him anyway. Finally, Michael told them there was another con artist involved. "He took the money," Michael said. "He played me too." Victor didn't believe him. He gave Michael 1 week to return every dollar, or face serious consequences. Later, Michael traveled to a small casino in the middle of the desert. The guards immediately pointed guns at him. But then their boss, Leon, arrived. "Let him in," Leon said. "Michael's a friend of mine." The two men sat down for drinks together. As they talked, Michael noticed a necklace around Leon's neck. The symbol on it matched the exact same mark as Alex's tattoo. Curious, Michael asked him about it. Leon leaned back and said, "First, you tell me your story. What trouble did you get yourself into this time?" And so, Michael told him everything. Leon told Michael something strange. He explained that the man Michael had encountered was a psychic. "Most people don't believe any of this," Leon said. "And most don't even know it's real. According to Leon, there are people in the world with extraordinary abilities, people living quietly among ordinary society, hidden in plain sight." He said they were connected to another world. "A place that overlaps with ours," Leon explained. "And if someone enters it, they can change things here." Leon then showed Michael an old book filled with drawings and names of remarkable people from different eras. He explained that every one of them was connected to that same mysterious world. "It's a place where thoughts and memories are all connected," Leon said quietly. According to him, people with special abilities could enter that world and use powers in ways normal humans couldn't understand. Ordinary people could enter it too. But there was a catch. Once inside, they could only return if someone on the outside pulled them back. Michael couldn't help laughing. To him, the whole thing sounded insane. Leon became irritated. He grabbed the old book again, the one containing the names of people with powers. Then he looked at Michael and said, "Forget the stories for now. Go find Alex and get the money back." Meanwhile, Alex met with a man named Godin and handed over all the stolen money. Godin then told Alex that he also needed to enter the other world. But Alex refused. "I don't want you getting lost in there," Godin said. "Besides, I enjoy doing business with you." He looked Alex in the eyes and added, "I trust you." At the same time, Michael asked Leon one final question. "Are the people in that book actually real?" Leon answered without hesitation. "Yes. Every one of them. I've seen their powers with my own eyes," Leon said. That was the moment Michael came up with a dangerous idea. If people like this really existed, then he could build a team capable of robbing any casino in the world. The first person he tracked down was Eric, a spoiled rich kid with the power to move objects using only his mind. But Eric had no interest in helping anyone. After that, Michael met Tony, a taxi driver who could control electronic devices as if they were connected directly to his brain. Somehow, Michael managed to convince both of them to join him. Then he found Kevin, a man with the ability to hypnotize people so deeply that whatever he wanted them to see became their reality. At the time, Kevin was locked inside a mental hospital. The doctors believed his visions were simply helping patients cope with depression. Michael looked at him and said, "You're wasting your life in here. I can make you rich." As they prepared to escape, the nurses came running after them. Eric used his powers to lift objects into the air and scatter them across the hallway, distracting everyone around them. At the same time, Tony remotely started an ambulance and forced open the main gate using his abilities. Together, they escaped without getting caught. The next day, the group gathered at a casino to practice using their powers. Kevin hypnotized people around the tables. Tony took control of the cameras and electronic systems. And whenever they entered the mysterious otherworld, Eric manipulated the dice with his own hands from the other side. Eric would shake the dice in the otherworld. And in real life, the dice would begin moving on their own. Kevin used his abilities to control a figure made of ice inside the otherworld. And somehow, everyone connected to that vision in the real world would slowly fall under his influence too. Meanwhile, whenever Tony entered the otherworld, violent lightning storms surrounded him. Every electronic device he hacked appeared there as a glowing chip floating in front of him. Eventually, the team carried out their first real test inside a casino in Lyon. At first, everything went perfectly. But little by little, the situation started falling apart. Kevin misunderstood what was happening and accidentally blinded an employee during the chaos. The terrified employee immediately pulled out a gun. The moment Tony saw the weapon, he panicked. Instead of controlling the cameras properly, he accidentally short-circuited the entire system. Michael quickly stepped in, trying to calm the guests and stop the situation from spiraling out of control. That was when he realized something important. If this team was going to survive, they needed a better way to communicate with each other. Otherwise, everything would eventually collapse. One day, Michael attended a funeral where several women were desperately asking a woman named Veronica for help. Suddenly, a group of men dressed in black arrived. The moment Veronica saw them, she panicked and ran. As she escaped, she dropped her headphones. Michael picked them up. More men appeared from another street, forcing Veronica to hide inside an abandoned old building. Michael followed her carefully, handed back the headphones, and said, "I'm not with those men." Veronica started walking away from him. But Michael kept following her. Veronica had the ability to read minds. Without hesitation, she looked directly at Michael and said, "I love you." Veronica looked at Michael and said, "Your plan doesn't interest me." Just then, one of the men spotted them. Michael immediately told her, "Run. Now." He rushed forward to stop the man while Veronica escaped. Meanwhile, at Alex's request, Godin returned home and began intense training. A powerful mind controller guided him into the other world. And there, Godin gained abilities of his own. He developed the power to control people's minds. While in an unconscious trance, he manipulated a struggling painter and turned him into a world-famous artist almost overnight. Then he controlled a museum employee and forced him to create a perfect copy of the painting. The fake painting was secretly swapped with the original. As the real artwork was being transported to another museum inside a van, the counterfeit remained behind in its place. At that exact moment, Godin suddenly woke up from the trance. The painter, completely confused and unable to remember anything, unknowingly sold Godin the original painting for a tiny amount of money. The people Godin controlled never remembered what had happened to them. Meanwhile, Michael brought Veronica back with him. Eventually, he convinced her to work with the team. Soon after, he introduced her to everyone else. Michael explained that Veronica could read minds and silently pass thoughts from one person to another. She could even place ideas directly into someone's head without speaking a single word. At the casino, she would act as the team's silent communication system, secretly relaying Michael's instructions to everyone during the game. To help her practice, Michael asked Veronica to enter the other world. The moment she stepped inside, everything around her felt strange and unfamiliar. Inside the other world, Veronica found herself standing in the middle of a dense forest. Michael immediately began testing their connection. He thought to himself, Eric should ring the biggest bell in town. Veronica silently passed the message to Eric. A moment later, Eric used his powers and made it happen. Then Michael thought, those two men over there should start running and screaming for help. Veronica relayed the thought to Kevin. Kevin instantly used his abilities, and the men suddenly panicked and began shouting for help exactly as Michael imagined. Next, Michael thought, Tony should short-circuit the lights across the entire area. He wanted the blackout to create panic and scare all the birds into flying away at once. Finally, Michael instructed Veronica to plant one last thought into the crowd. "There's an earthquake coming." Veronica did exactly that. With the ringing bells, screaming people, darkness, and chaos happening all at once, everyone became convinced an earthquake was actually happening. People started running in every direction. Only Michael's team stayed calm. Afterward, Michael stole a few drinks from a nearby restaurant while explaining the next phase of the plan. They would all disguise themselves and enter the casino separately. Each member of the team would arrive at a different time to avoid suspicion. Only Veronica would enter with Michael, pretending to be his fiancée. For that, she needed elegant clothes and professional makeup. So the entire group went shopping and visited a stylist. 2 days later, the team finally arrived at the casino. Michael took his seat and began playing. Meanwhile, Veronica stayed perfectly calm, reading his thoughts and silently passing his instructions to the others. At the same time, Tony controlled the casino cameras while casually playing at his own table. Eric sat among the players competing against Michael, deliberately losing hand after hand so Michael would keep winning bigger and bigger. Once Michael had won a large amount of money, he and Veronica moved to another table where Kevin was secretly controlling the employees with his powers. At first, everything went smoothly. But eventually, Eric got drunk. After losing repeatedly on purpose, he became frustrated and reckless. He suddenly took control of one of the casino's spinning machines and started winning huge amounts of money for himself. Instead of waiting for Veronica to relay messages, Eric began communicating directly with Michael. At the same time, Tony got carried away too. Excited by his powers, he started controlling multiple casino machines all at once. One after another, jackpots started hitting across the floor. That immediately caught the attention of casino security. The guards quickly detained Eric and Tony. As they escorted them toward the elevator, the rest of the team was already waiting nearby. Kevin instantly hypnotized the guards and sent them walking away in a daze. The team slipped into the elevator and hid. Furious, Michael scolded them. "If I get caught," he warned, "they won't hesitate to kill me. You have no idea who we're dealing with." After that, everyone promised they would only follow Michael's instructions from then on. Together, they headed to the final table. Michael pushed all of his money into a single bet. Kevin controlled the dealer handling the cards. Eric secretly manipulated the dice exactly the way Michael wanted. This time, the plan worked perfectly. In one massive win, Michael walked away with $1 million. Later that night, the entire team gathered on the beach. They drank together, sat around a fire, and celebrated their victory. A short distance away, Veronica sat quietly by herself. Michael walked over to Veronica. "We're a strong team," he said quietly. "If we stick together, we can make a lot of money." But Veronica clearly refused. She said no. The conversation quickly turned into an argument. Tension rose, and both of them ended up saying harsh things to each other. Meanwhile, Alex was having dinner with Godin. He told him the training had to be stopped. "Unless you have someone you can fully trust," Alex said, "there's a high chance you'll get caught." When Godin asked about Michael, Alex revealed that Michael had already formed a new team. That made Godin angry. "We need to act," he said. The next morning, the entire team was traveling when an SUV suddenly started following them. Tony tried to speed up and escape, but another SUV appeared in front of them. They were completely surrounded. Forced to stop in the middle of the road, the team was pulled out and captured by Victor and his men. Their hands were tied. Michael stayed calm and said, "We have the money. We'll give it to you." But Victor wasn't interested. "I'm not after your money," he said. "I'm after your power." Without hesitation, Victor dragged Michael to the edge of a cliff. A gunshot rang out. Michael's body fell down the hill. Everyone watched in shock. Terrified, the rest of the team escaped into the other world, believing Michael was gone. But what they didn't know was the truth. It was all a trick. Michael was still alive. And then he was taken to Godin, who turned out to be his father. Godin untied Michael's hands. Michael froze in shock as he realized the truth. His own father had been behind everything. The guard stood nearby as Godin spoke. "You've been ignoring me for 10 years, he said. "Yes," he continued. "That's why I had to do this." He looked at Michael and said, "Do you remember when you were a child? We used to dream about a special door together. That other world. I finally learned how to enter it." A few days later, Tony, Kevin, and Eric were forced to work as employees in Victor's casino so they could stay close to powerful clients and make influence easier. One day, Michael returned quietly to his room and found a plumber working in the bathroom. It was Michael himself in disguise. He immediately noticed Veronica was missing. The others told him she had left Victor's service completely. She had refused to continue working, and after witnessing Michael's death, she fell into a coma and never recovered from her otherworldly state. That night, the lights above the casino table began to flicker. The team suddenly surrounded Victor and said, "We're quitting this job." Security immediately reacted, locking Victor inside a storage room and assigning a new guard. The new guard arrived. It was Michael again, in disguise. He quickly freed the team and explained the escape plan. Kevin then hypnotized the guard into handing over his key card to unlock the elevator. Michael stole another key and locked the elevator down in the basement. Down the corridors, laser traps activated. Michael assigned each team member to different roles while he moved ahead alone to find Veronica. He had already calculated exactly which room she would be held in. Wearing a mask, he dropped a gas bomb into the room. After neutralizing the guards, he finally rescued Veronica from captivity. Tony managed to shut down some of the laser systems, but not all of them. Still, there was enough space for Eric to carefully focus and guide the team through. He could occasionally break through the opening and reach the safe. Using all his strength, he forced it open. The laser system had already shut down. Veronica managed to leave, but the alarm immediately went off. Guards started rushing toward the vault room. However, the elevator wasn't working. On the other side, a hypnotized employee had started firing at everyone in a confused state. The guards quickly moved in, overpowered him, and knocked him out. Soon after, they pushed through and entered the corridor. But by then, Eric had already opened the safe. The team rushed inside and locked the door behind them. Victor ordered his men to kill them the moment they came out. Inside the room, Michael explained that the mission wasn't over yet. Not until Veronica woke up. Everyone warned him that if he went into the world to bring her back, he could die. He didn't have any powers of his own. But Michael made his decision anyway. Kevin used his abilities to hypnotize him and send him into the other world. Michael arrived at a strange white space. Everything around him floated like fragments of reality. He could hear voices from his past, his mother's death, illegal jobs he had done, time spent in jail, everything. Then a sudden flash of memory hit him. He heard Veronica's voice calling him selfish. A door appeared, and Michael walked through it. He landed in a vast open field filled with countless doors, under a sky of shifting colors. A storm was approaching. He quickly took cover behind one of the doors, but the storm grew so intense it nearly destroyed everything around him. Still, Michael held on. He lifted his hand, and the storm suddenly stopped. With a single gesture, Michael pulled the entire storm down, clearing the field completely. He sat on the ground for a moment, trying to steady his breath. Then he focused deeply on Veronica's memories. The ground beneath him began to crack, and the open field slowly transformed into a city. Michael climbed a set of stairs and saw Veronica standing there, looking up at the shifting colors of the sky. When he tried to approach her, an invisible force stopped him. A barrier surrounded her, something he couldn't break through. He pushed against it and shouted her name, but Veronica didn't respond. Then Michael tried something different. He reached out to her through his thoughts. Buildings around him started collapsing, and he was left standing in an empty space under heavy rain. The protective barrier around Veronica remained intact, but now she could hear his voice. Michael told her it was real. He said she didn't have to stay trapped there. Veronica replied that she didn't want to return to the real world. She felt like no one was waiting for her there, like she didn't belong anywhere. Michael told her, "I'm alive." But she still didn't believe him. So he sent her a memory. The moment they first met. Suddenly, the connection shifted. Both of them ran through the memory together. Michael found himself on a rooftop, standing beside her. He looked at Veronica and said softly, "Maybe you feel like no one's there for you, but I am." Veronica hesitated for a moment. Then she reached out and held Michael's hand. They caught up and returned to a field filled with doors everywhere. For a moment, everything went still. Then Michael and Veronica kissed. After that, Veronica walked through a door that allowed her to wake up in the real world. For Michael, it was different. It was the first time someone had left him behind in that space. Now he had to find his own way out. Suddenly, flashes of memory appeared. He saw the past clearly. Gordon had been the one who taught him everything about the other world. Gordon had once asked Michael to become his partner so they could use the doors together, to control and exploit the world beyond. He even promised that help would come when needed. Back in the present, Michael saw Alex step through one of the doors and immediately followed her. The space around him slowly transformed into a casino. He followed Alex closely and witnessed her death unfold in front of him. Then Michael remembered something else. He had been taught how to enter someone's mind. That realization shifted everything. Suddenly, he woke up inside the vault. He stood up and said he was leaving with the money. Tony disabled the lock system, and the vault door opened. But when they stepped into the corridor, it looked completely empty. Almost too empty. Then the truth was revealed. While still inside the other world, Michael had entered Victor's mind and manipulated him. He made Victor believe the team had already escaped with all the money. That's why Victor had ordered his guards to rush outside. The corridor was empty because everyone had been tricked. Using that distraction, the team escaped successfully with all the money. If you like the story, make sure to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.